And welcome to the latest edition of the 941 Sports Zone. We're up to episode lucky number 13. And we have our first repeat guest here in this season of the 941 Sports Zone. I'm Spitz. John Hottie Toddy Mazzoni is
to
the
talk
right.
About that.
There's got to be a story behind that, John.
There sure is. There definitely is. But I have to say that Matt Geller being our for his second time, that shows how good he was the first time. So
yes.
A little pressure on Matt here. You know, he's got
to deliver again.
I got to bring up the. I'll bring up the game. But thanks for having me, you guys. Thank you very much.
No problem. Matt Geller from the Florida sports scene. We had him on episode number 2 back when the season just started. Now we're in week 2 of the playoffs in high school football. We'll get into that. Lots going on in college football. I know, John, you made the trip to Oxford and want to hear all about that. The NFL.
That's the hottie toddy. That's where
I've had a feeling it might have been. In the NFL, the Bucs, a very disappointing loss in Buffalo. We will definitely get into that pretty heavy. Among all the other games that are going on, could the Chiefs actually miss the playoffs? Wow.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that. The locks of the week. Somebody stole the key. Both of us not victorious. I actually lost the game outright, thinking that Alabama would just boat race Oklahoma. I guess I learned my lesson at some point with Oklahoma that they're actually pretty much in the playoff now. And, of course, we've got our What's Bugging Me segment also coming up. So we got all that to get to. And, of course, the 941 Sports Zone brought to you, as always, by the good folks at Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida, locally owned and nationally backed, delivering exceptional roofing for homes and businesses throughout the Gulf Coast. 941-251-4257 is the number to call. 941-251-4257. Now that hurricane season, even though the official end is on the 30th, the Gulf's closed. I saw the water temperatures down there. Guys, this cold snap really dropped everything.
It's 60s. It's definitely once it gets about 80, it's almost over with at that point.
Yep.
But yeah, to see that water temperature go down, that means that Gulf breeze becomes nice and cool. There's a lot of good things that happen when that Gulf temperature goes down. Sorry, tourists, but that's just for the locals here. We enjoy that little that cold spell for a couple.
Listen, the tourists think high 60s is great for the water. It was 40 degrees. 40 degrees here today in Saugus. The wind chill was in the teens.
Yeah.
Brutally bad. Way early for this crap to be brutally honest.
The pre-Thanksgiving freeze is never a fun one.
Never is. All right, guys, let's get into the high school football playoffs. Opening week, quarterfinals, regionally. We'll start from the top 7A and work our way down. Venice, no problems. Downing Ridge, 49-12. They were in complete control of that game throughout. And again, it was a 1 versus 8 matchup, even though it was a battle of district champions. Certainly Venice showed their muscle and their might.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you go.
Well, I have from the beginning of this season, and again, this was my first year covering Venice, I didn't know what the season would bring. I didn't know how it would unfold, and seeing the first couple of weeks, there was no fluidity. And this is not a shot at Coach Peacock. It just the players that were in positions just weren't getting things done. Since then, the way that this team has gelled, they are just rolling. And I'm talking about offense, defense, especially everything. Everything. Venice is clicking on all cylinders. And I just want to tell a quick story. A friend of mine, Andy Villamarzo, is the national correspondent for Rivals. And him and I were having a phone conversation. And we were talking about a what-if scenario where Riverview comes to play Venice the Friday after Thanksgiving. And we were trying to set up and have a who's who of Venice and Sarasota, Riverview. And he said, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that because what's the team that they play this week? What is it?
West Orange.
West Orange. He said they have a quarterback who is lights out, and West Orange is not playing around right now. And they're not. He didn't say that they were going to trip up Venice, but they were going to trip up either Venice or Riverview, whoever they ended up playing. And he since told me that he thinks it's going to be a pretty good game, but Venice is probably going to pull it out. So I have a different vantage point because I've got to see Venice up close this season as well as other teams. But Venice is, boy, they're a well-oiled machine right now. They are, and there's whoever is, if there is a team out there that can beat them in 7A in the state of Florida, well, they're going to have to play a really, really, really good game.
John,
And for
you've
me,
seen
I
them all
wasn't.
year.
I wasn't there Friday night. So much to a lot of people's surprise, but I took a trip to Ole Miss to go see the Grove. It's the very famous tailgating community, if you want, you can call it that, at University of Mississippi, and we have the Gators, Florida Gators, playing that game. Great time, unbelievable atmosphere. I mean, Southern hospitality, deep South sort of mentality about everything, and just a really spectacular event to go to. I could say if you're a college football fan, I would put it on my bucket list to go to Ole Miss and they'll get to say hotty toddy. That's their greeting for each other, and that's what they do. They put their hand like that, hotty toddy. But it was fun, great time. But I did miss the game, although I got a lot of updates and got to hear a lot of different opinions on the game, which is always good to see. I like hearing everybody's perspective on the game. I do know that Coach Peacock had already mentioned that, along the way, that West Orange, if that was the opponent they were going to face after that first round, that they are a very athletic football team. They're going to be tough minded. They're well coached. They're playoff tested. So there's something to that, and they play a lot. And not only do they play in their region, but they play other teams outside their region that are also playoff teams. So sometimes a team like that is as battle tested as Venice would be. And coming into a game, they've been here before, so they know the atmosphere. It's not unfamiliar for them. So I expect it to be a big challenge for the Indians. However, like Matt, like you said, how this train has started to roll after what we call a sluggish start. I would even call it sort of very confused start of the year with quarterbacks and whatnot, injuries and the like, and rain out games and you name it, all those things to affect. But that's part of his training regimen for these kids is quick change, deal with adversity as best you can. And so you get I would never call it a stoic team, but a very composed football team is what the Indians turn out to be. They're very focused and they're very composed. There's expectations within themselves and with their teammates as to how they're going to perform, and their level of expectation is there as well. But I expect a really good game, and if it does come out to be Sarasota, Riverview, and Venice in the regional final, no better game to have in the area for regards to the playoffs.
I'm really no, and this is not throwing shade on either of the teams that Riverview and Venice are playing this week, but just like you just said, John, for this area, there is no bigger rivalry than I grew up with Michigan State, and Ohio State, Michigan. Big rivalries, and Riverview Venice feels like that type of rivalry. It's a respect. But man, we don't like those guys, and right. and I benefit. You guys, we benefit from all this. So I'm really looking forward to it.
All right. How many years ago was it that West Orange came here, John? Was it 2 years, 3 years ago?
I'm pretty sure it was 2 years ago that they came into town, and they were ready to go. They're fired up when they came in for that year. They had I remember that some banners, and they did some stuff, and. Yeah, they were definitely, and they had some D1 players on that team as well, and just like I said, hard hitting, very 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 tough minded team. Like you get in the playoffs, sometimes some teams are like slick. Hey, but some teams are just bulldozers. These guys were just gritty. You could see that they had that mentality. So that's a tough thing to deal with because there's no quit in a team like that. Sometimes you get into a game and they get behind 14, and next thing you know, it's 28, and next thing you know, you're out of the game. This is not a team that's going to do that. This team is going to play really hard, and I know that for sure. So I think that having the knowledge of how they play and having the knowledge of the level of their talent does help Venice, but doesn't mean it is going to be any easier because of it.
Riverview also victorious. They beat Winter Haven 42-13. really didn't have much of a challenge in that game. So they will host Sumner on Friday night. Sumner's an interesting club. Doing a little looking into. Riverview better be ready.
Yeah.
I have Dorian Macho's dad was literally just texted me and tell me he got a chance to look at the Sumner tape, and he said one thing for certain, those guys better be ready to play on Friday night because Sumner is real deal.
All right, moving to 6A, a couple of surprising results. Palmetto had everything they could handle with the 8-seed Wiregrass Ranch, 42-41. That game was close throughout. You and I, John, both thought that Palmetto would be a wagon right through the playoffs, but you'd have to be a little bit concerned if you're Palmetto. Wiregrass Ranch, usually a very good outfit, but in a 1 versus 8 matchup, you would think that the one wouldn't have too many issues, and they had everything they could handle.
Go ahead, Matt.
Now I got a chance to look at the stats for this right there, and I actually saw, I was at the Riverview Palmetto game and seeing the tools, the components that are Palmetto High School football, and they're a really good team. I didn't get a chance to see anything on that game Friday. I just saw the stats on the paper. And obviously, a couple of people told me that the stats are misleading, but 42-41, there's not much misleading in that at all,
No.
Yeah.
What I heard is that Wiregrass was a very good football team, and not that I don't think Palmetto underestimated, but I don't know if the 8 seed, again, just like with Ridge and Venice, if that was an accurate depiction of what kind of team Wiregrass was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what we're going to see too. I think days gone by where the 1-8 game was a layup in a lot of cases. I don't know if that's the way it's going to be going forward, because some of these teams that are district champions or what are getting seeded lower than they normally would get seeded because of the format with the point accumulation they have with that. So I think Palmetto got caught in a buzzsaw, and I hope that that's an indicator for them that they're going to say that. And again, I'm not assuming that they kind of overlooked Wiregrass, but I think that the indication that every playoff game is from this point, especially from now on, you better be ready. You better be ready to strap it up and play your absolute best football. Otherwise, you're going to get caught in a buzzsaw.
I really like that Coach Peacock. Okay, so I had a meeting with Coach Shannon a couple weeks ago, and he brought it up on the computer, the FHSAA numbers, how they broke down the numbers, and obviously you need a math degree to figure out how they do it.
It's crazy.
You really do. But he pointed out the 12.56, which is strength of schedule for Venice, and how that was going to propel them. He was hoping that he could get to the number 2 spot, and they ended up moving up to the 1 spot, obviously, but maybe some of these other teams, the 8 seed there, is it Wiregrass? Is that what you said?
Wiregrass, yeah, Wiregrass.
So do you think that when you have somebody like that, that's still a pretty good team, but maybe you need to start scheduling harder out of conference teams to, move up a little bit? Is that maybe an answer? I don't know.
It is. It's definitely an answer because you're trying. I mean, a lot of, again, some teams, let's just say that sometimes they're just trying to get to the playoffs. Let's just say that first. Sometimes the goals are not as lofty as maybe all the teams in our area right now, the way they're looking. But they get in and they get in on they win their district. Maybe a district's only a 2 or 3 team district. You get in and then you kind of win out your schedule because it's not as tough. And then you get seeded 8 because of just that reason, because you're the 8 seed, because you didn't have a tough schedule. So if you're gonna try to accumulate the points in order to go forward with where you're going and still maintain home field advantage and everything else, sometimes you got to throw a team on there that's not maybe one you want to face. And maybe it would be a loss or a really hard game, but it's what's going to get you to the next step with a little more continuity, a little bit more of a cleaner path as opposed to sort of getting kicked down to the 8 seed.
So Palmetto draws number 5 seed Mitchell, who had no problems in their game. They won 40-9 against the team in Palmetto's district, and the other team that was in Palmetto's district has 3 made the playoffs. Parish Community got boat raced by Eastlake up in Tarpon Springs. It was a 3-6 matchup, but because Eastlake was a district champion, Parish Community had to travel, and for the second straight year, a disappointing result for Parish Community in round one, 35-7. Was not a close game at all. I think, as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, Parish scored the final touchdown of the game. Just a disappointing result. I really thought Parish Community had a shot to make some noise, and they're out.
Yeah, those when you start talking about that, I have to defer to John on Parish Community, because I haven't had a chance to get up there and see them not one time this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I know is basically the fact that they hung their hat on their defense all year.
Yes,
and to get running clocked was what happened, was a very surprising situation in the first round. A first round loss is not surprising, but the manner in which it happened was extremely surprising from the way the manner in which they played. And I think their coach commented and said, that they were a little surprised themselves as to how things turned out for them in that game. They weren't that again. Like any coach would do, hey, it's on me. I didn't have my players ready, whatever it may be. But I think that sometimes, there is that point where you got to take some lumps to get through the playoffs sometimes before you get going and winning. We've talked about it. I know it's coming up here shortly, but we've talked about Port Charlotte in that type of scenario where they have a good run through the regular season. They make the playoffs, and then all of a sudden, week 1, week 2. Not quite ready or not quite battle tested yet, or figured out how to do things, and they take an L when you thought they could do much better based on their regular season record.
But Coach Peacock told me one thing I wanted to share was he told me that from 08 until 17 they had that same thing, first round, second round, for 10 years. It took us 10 years to figure this whole thing out and get past that right there. So sometimes, like John said, you just got to take your lumps and learn from the process, and then
I know he won't mind me saying this, but there was a point where after the 16 season, 15 season, I think it was really when it kind of came around, where he was like, "Are we ever going to get out of this? Or are we just is this what we should expect?" And the answer is obviously no. And some of the things that go into it aren't always the X's and the O's. It's sometimes it's how you prepare, in the off season, how you do certain things. The commitment to all that sometimes is the difference maker, because you can have a talented football team, you can have a million plays to call, everything else, but sometimes it's just a matter of knowing how to win and knowing how to knowing how to face adversity and for somebody standing right in front of you and being able to take a loss on a play and then win the next 2 plays.
One thing, John, that I saw with my own eyes, and me and him have not talked about this, but early in the year, they were not. The offense was predicated a lot on the running game and Tyree Manning, and in the last couple of weeks, I have seen Colton Lynch catching touchdowns, running wide open, and Landon Green got a touchdown last game. Right. Like they're opening this offense up now, and that should really scare a lot of West Orange and a lot of these other teams that they're going to face. If you can just double team Tyree and take him out of the game, that makes your defense look a lot better. But now I got a 6'6" tight end, and Landon Green's a speeder on the outside too. Venice is they're really set up.
When you think what's going on, and the next thing you know, you look around and say, well, who is that making that catch, or who is this guy doing this? Man, it makes a difference. And I also tell you this, from an injury perspective, during the season, there was a lot of depth built with Venice, just to go back to that real quick. And that's another thing that some of the teams that sometimes you're in the playoffs and you're riding a one show pony kind of thing, where you got somebody like who you're going to hand the ball off to. He's a 2,000-yard rusher, or a guy who can make catch. And if you don't have something else to go to in the playoffs, if you're one-dimensional or one-sided with certain, it doesn't usually work. It's very hard for one individual, unless they're absolutely off the charts good, to carry you through the playoffs. and up to that state semifinal, the semi or final plateau. Very difficult. So to see the extra weapons come out, that's where you see the difference in a lot of the good teams. And that's why going into this year with these teams we're talking about right now, I saw all these teams with a lot of weapons. I mean, a lot of weapons. You don't see a lot of teams right now that are just one guy, taking him on, putting him on his back and running or passing to all these different things. So this is where I think that why our area is so good, because there is depth on these teams, and they do play tougher schedules.
Yeah. 5A, Manatee in a 3-6 matchup held off Charlotte 28-21. They got out to an early lead, Charlotte, with a couple of first-half turnovers, giving Manatee some short fields. Charlotte played very well in the second half, shut them out, actually, in the second half, and got to within 28-21 with 2:33 to go in regulation, but could not recover the onside kick. And Manatee advances as the 3 seed, and now they're going to have to go on the road to face Cape Coral. And there's a team that not only is battle tested, but they lost their coach mid-season when they were undefeated. Something happened with that program, and they continued to trudge along. They ended up being the 2 seed, and they will host Manatee coming up on Friday night.
The last game of the season on Halloween was Manatee Riverview, and I got a chance to get up there, and I was at the Bosco game early in the year, and obviously that got rained out at halftime. They canceled that game, but to see the way that Manatee's team was set up then and how they look now, I interviewed Coach Green after the game, and he said, when you play the schedule that we play, the number 2 ranked team in the United States coming in here, they played a really hard schedule this year, and he said you've got to just learn and learn new things. So they changed quarterbacks. They brought Ronan Dangler off the defense and put him at fullback, so their running game picked up because he's just a bruiser, And then Jaquan Williams, they moved him to safety. Like I said, they changed quarterbacks, and Manatee looks like they're a lot better team than they were at the beginning of this year. That's for sure.
I also think that this game against Charlotte was a wake-up call, because I think, like you said, Rich, Manatee got off to a lead and then, got shot out in the second half by Charlotte. And that sometimes is an indicator that you're waiting to get that one more touchdown to get that running clock started or whatever it may be. So lesson learned, I think, for Manatee on that one, because I expected them to really be able to kind of go through Charlotte easier than than they did. But once again, like Coach Green and always the Manatee Hurricanes, they are a force to be reckoned with, and they know how to win. Go look at their scoreboard and look at their banners that they hang, and that's a culture that's built up there over the years, and there's expectations that those kids don't play football they're not there to get a participation trophy. They're there to get rings. And so you better be ready to play when you play Manatee. And I think
there's a lot of guys that was on that roster that's still on that roster right now that played again in that Kiwanis game last year.
Yeah.
I think it was 20-17. It was a 3-point game, whatever it was, 21-18, 2017, something like it. It was a 3-point game, whatever it was, with the eventual 5A state champion. So they brought a lot of those guys back. So there's a lot of guys there with pedigree.
And for all what happened to Manatee this year, as far as their schedule is concerned and how tough it was for them, I know that game last year against St. Thomas Aquinas means as much as any game that happened this year to them, because they don't forget those kind of situations.
Right.
When you hear the names and that they played St. Thomas and they played John Bosco right out from California. When you've played those teams, you're not facing any better the rest of until you get to that team again, if that is the case. By the way, one quick side note: you saw that John Bosco lost, right? Biggest upset in the country. They got beat by an 8 seed, and the number 2 team in the country goes down in a first round playoff. They were saying that's the upset of the century, and it may be. If looking based on what it was, you would never expect that first round loss, but that's why they play them all. You better play on the field. You never know what's going to happen. That was
Jason Negro, the head coach at Bosco, is one of the premier individuals that I've got the chance to meet this season. And when he, I asked him what it was like bringing them guys across the country to play a football game. He said that literally, you want to test your guys all the time, but you also want to give them an opportunity to see football at a different level and a different, in a whole different state and situation. So he really did a good job. I was pulling for him, but maybe the better team won. I don't know. I don't know. I saw the final score 20-19. It didn't look good. That's for sure.
No doubt about it.
4A, Port Charlotte opened their playoffs as the 2 seed. Played familiar foe Dunbar. They had beaten them a few weeks ago, and they beat them again 48-21. Similar score than the first time. I think it was something to the effect of 44-14. So Port Charlotte moves on, and they're going to take on a Clearwater team that is salty. They're a very good football team. The Tornadoes are not going to be intimidated coming down to the Pirates Cove. I expect this to be one of the closest games of the second week of the playoffs.
Port Charlotte is loaded. They are loaded. Dallas Lambert, Elias Pearl. They have so much talent in different positions. They're tailback. Like they're very obviously Coach Ingman has them. They're just a well-coached machine. And I did not know what you just said about the Clearwater team, Spitz. I did not know that. But
yep.
I was talking again with Andy, and I have them easily. I don't have the pedigree you guys do in this area. So, but I really did not really. This is going to be a test for them, huh?
I think so.
And let's let you know, like Eastlake, they're a playoff caliber team a lot of times as well. In that area, I would say the names to remember are Clearwater Central Catholic being the smaller school, but they're always in the playoffs. Eastlake, the Tarpon Springs area, really good football there. But Clearwater, we had to go up to Clearwater years ago, and big team. They always got big linemen. Always have a good running game. I'm not quite sure if they're still of the same caliber, but I'm going to fall in the middle of you guys here a little bit. I'm going to say that I think that Port Charlotte's going to win because they're better than them, but I don't know how much better they are. Right. I'm going to go back to this, and I'm a big proponent about coaching and quarterback. That sort of that link together. And I think Logan Flaherty and Jordan are a good enough combo to go a very long way in this playoff.
He's a star. Logan Flaherty's a star, and I watched him with my own eyes. How he would every time it seemed like a Shari Charles and I don't know, Aaron Campbell came off the edge or whatever it was. They had him dead to rights, and he just spun out and just take it. Once he extends the play and gets outside, he's got two. Over those guys, I interviewed both of them. I'm looking them dead in the eyes. These guys are kids, 6'4", 6'5". I mean, they're big receivers. They're fast, physical. Matter of fact, I think they combined for 350 receiving yards against Venice in that game. I think one had 200, the other one had 147. It was it was impressive to watch them play. And obviously, Kate Judson made the play at the end and salvaged the game for Venice. But Port Charlotte is right there. They are very good. They're a very good team.
And I think that's the part right now. We believe, we're sitting here right now and we're touting Port Charlotte. And I think now it's to the point where they have to believe themselves as well.
Yes.
It's not an overconfidence thing. There's a fine balance of being overconfident and knowing and feeling that you deserve or are capable of winning this game. I think that's where it's going to come from. It's going to come from within. And sometimes it takes one play or just one thing that kind of it crystallizes everything for them. I'm hoping it gets to them to early on in the playoffs, and they can kind of get themselves rolling and get that confidence building. Because I think if they do, look out 4A. It'll be tough.
There is in this area right now, just in our area. I'm not saying region or district or anything, but in our area. There's 5 or 6, like Coach Peacock said, there's like 5 or 6 teams that can legitimately win the state championship this year. Yep. Just in this area alone. It's just amazing. It is.
Last week's coaches show, we talked about the media day situation and how we were all sitting talking amongst ourselves at media day, and I had said I think there's 5 state semifinal teams that are going to be from this area. Yeah. And Coach Peacock remembered that, and he says, "Hey, what made you think this, and why'd you see it?" And I said, it comes from seeing the blueprint that I'm accustomed to, which is Venice. You mentioned it took a number of years to get over that second round losses, and with unbelievable talent. Remember, this is the era of Dree Archer and Trey Burton. and guys that were putting D1 players in all over the place and just couldn't find the way to get past some of the those teams that you think they would. And once it sparked, everybody got the feel for what it took. Everybody got the mentality of what it took to get to the playoffs, and I think that's what we're seeing. We saw Booker last year go to far. Mooney with the state championship under their belt. Riverview with a pedigree over time and a coaching change that might be the best thing that happened to them in the last 5 years. All the little things that are going into this that you think that this one, but go back to Port Charlotte, quarterback and coach. When you've got that kid who's been there and knows what he's doing, he's got the talent to put the ball on and distribute and make plays on it on his own. And a coach that's been there for, I think Jordan's been, what is it, going on 15 years, Rich? Do we know for the exact amount of time?
Yeah. I asked him at the media days. It's 15 or 16. Yeah. I think this was the 16th.
So that's why you start saying this is where you think it's time. It's time to go forward. So we'll see how that plays out for Port Charlotte.
3A, Booker played on Thursday night and just embarrassed Mulberry 75-0. This is a team that I think really has got a shot to end up in Miami. And they will host Bayshore. Let's give it up to the Bruins, who had a 5-game losing streak. They went to Tampa Chamberlain, and they won. And they won fair and square, and they beat them solid 27-12. And again, John, you and I were talking about this last week. Yeah. This could be a program builder for them. It's going to be tough beating Booker. They lost 51-0 the first time, but get that playoff win. They've got it now under their belt, and they can start building on that. Maybe not Friday, but maybe next year. But certainly hats off to the Bayshore Bruins.
I don't know if there's any team in this area, and I have a lot of respect for all of these coaches around here, but boy, Carlos Woods, they're a machine, and they have all of the right players in all of the right positions. They have a great quarterback. Their defense is ridiculous. They have everything you want. They have a star receivers, 2 actually really good receivers. The running back, their quarterback, they're very well coached. Honestly, when I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, I cannot see. I looked at the schedule and I looked all the way down, and I can't see, in my limited expertise, I cannot see a team that can beat Booker in 4 quarters of high school football right now. I just cannot see it. They're a machine.
They are, and I'm actually gonna go real quick to Bayshore. All year, I felt as though that I'm like, don't forget about Bayshore. Don't forget about Bayshore. And just for the fact that I watched, when you see these second year coaches, and there's quite a few of them right now that are coaching, and sometimes like in the case of Sarasota, tough district to be in, obviously with Venice and Riverview as well. But you can see the pieces that are in place right now. A passing game, over 300 yards against Venice. You see that they're not as stout on the front line as they need to be, especially at that bigger level like they're playing at. But they're going to be good. But Bayshore, I'm not surprised. I know the talent at Bayshore. I go way back when Bayshore was the top team in Manatee County, and wasn't even close. Well, I shouldn't say that. Manatee and Southeast have always been there, but Bayshore was the big dog, and for a number of years up there. And so see them do well, I think that's a real positive step for them to win a playoff game. Especially, it's tough to come off a 5-game losing streak as they had, and to be motivated to go play a tough game in the playoffs, and they did.
On the road.
Big step, real big step. I think they're moving towards bigger and better things as well. Booker, you're right. One thing I took away from media day, and I every time I see Booker and I'm watching them win games, the one thing about it is that go back to the statement that they were building a family. Mm-hmm. And so when you say that what they've got as far as talent is concerned, it means a lot. It does. But when you go to play whoever it may be, round 4, round 3, which is coming up, you're going to get tested, and you can't be undisciplined. You can't be all that talent and all that expectation that we all have for them. I'm sure they feel the same way, but they're going to get hit. in the mouth at some point in time. Don't stick with that culture that you're building, that family culture. If one of your teammates is not having it that night, or he's having a rough time because whatever, you need to put your arm around him, or you need to look him in the eye and say, "We got this." And when you can get that, and you're that talented and you're that good, we're talking about a parade for Booker at the end of the year.
2A, Cardinal Mooney toyed with North Broward 55-7. I had to laugh at Vinny Portel on X. They went for the coin toss, and he basically called it a funeral. I was like, wow, Vinny. I mean, geez, I know they're going to win, but to do that on X right at the start of the game. But Cardinal Mooney, no problems with North Broward. And they'll host the familiar foe for them, Bishop Verot, whom they beat 49-14 back on September 26th. So you have to think advantage Mooney to get to a regional final. And again, John, like you and I talked, they moved up a class, which means they have to win an extra game this year. They have to win 5 to win the state title as opposed to 4.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, Carolyn Melby just texted me. She's the director of communications for them, and she sent me a text, and she said that the campus was on lockdown this week. Different. She was telling me some different protocols for the media if I was coming to that game. But I just love the fact that the way that Cardinal Mooney feels about Bishop. Bro, this is a serious game, and we take this extremely seriously, and we're coming with hard hats and lunch pails this week. They're going to understand, win or lose, she didn't say, but they're going to understand that they were in a serious football game after Friday night. That's for sure.
Verot is very, very battle tested. They're not another team that's played a very tough schedule. Mooney took it to them in the regular season, but man, those second matchups, be careful of that. And Verot is very, very talented. They just may not have as many weapons as Cardinal Mooney has, and Mooney has been battle tested as well. I mean, there's no doubt they played a pretty decent schedule themselves. I think Mooney will win. I think it won't be that a walkover kind of game. I think Verot's going to give him a tough time. The biggest thing, I don't know why it popped up in this game for me, or about when I was looking at this game earlier. Just be careful of turnovers. Verot's an opportunistic team. Venice has played them twice in a row, and both games they strip the ball real well. They do certain things that just sort of like they're gamers. They really are gamers. They don't want to back down. So just be careful of that, because sometimes that's the one thing you got to say, like, well, we had it all set up. Like I said, X's and O's look right. We had the right guys out there. And next thing you know, it's a turnover or two, and that game's a different game. But I do expect Mooney to come out of that and move forward against Verot.
All right, and that's a look at high school football playoffs. And, of course, we'll round 2, the semifinals in the region, going to be played this Friday night. And then next week we will talk about regional finals, and those start to get really interesting. And we kind of previewed a couple maybe. We'll have to wait and see how all of the results stack up. You're listening to the 941 Sports Zone, and it's presented, as always, by the good folks at Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. Give them a call, 941-251-4257. Again, 941-251-4257. They've got national banking, but they're locally owned, which I think is really important. They'll stand behind their work, and they go up and down the Gulf Coast. Again, Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. All right, let's turn our attention to college football. John, you kind of referenced it earlier. You went to the Grove. Ole Miss in Florida. First half was tremendous. Ole Miss got out to a 10-0 lead, and you started thinking, "Oh boy, this could really turn ugly." And what did the Gators do? They nutted it up. They played very well in the first half. Actually had a lead in the first half. Went to the locker room down. No, they went to the locker room up, didn't they?
Up 24-20
at halftime. Yeah. Actually, up through 3 quarters. Right. Ole Miss scored on the first play of the fourth quarter, and then kind of armbarred them down the stretch. Scored a late, by the way, Lane Kiffin's specialty touchdown when they could have done what Georgia did a couple of weeks ago and just kneeled on it. No, they decided they wanted to make the scoreboard look a little better. 34-24, the final. John, your thoughts? You were there, and the Gators are not going to go to a bowl this year. But I loved the especially in the first half. I loved the execution and the wherewithal. They were ready to play.
So I'll say something that you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm glad they're not going to a bowl game. There's too much confusion. There's too much stuff going on. I don't want to lose players, but we're going to lose players. And to put, I know you get the extra practices, but at this point, there's too many things that are swirling around the Gators that they need to get straightened out before they're worried about a bowl game. So I think I'll say that right there. As far as the game was concerned, it was amped up like you cannot believe. They put on a show. We were like, did the circus come to town? What's going on? There were all kinds of things happening, not just before the game, but during the game. It was an amazing show that they put on. Drones in the sky with spelling out Ole Miss, laser light shows in between quarters, and you name it. And of course, all the traditional things that they do, the songs, the pom-poms, everything else. It was quite a spectacle. I would recommend anybody who's a college football fan, like I said, go to Ole Miss. And even if it's half of what I saw, forget about it. It was phenomenal. Now on the field, I thought the Gators came out and played it's the best called football game I've seen in 3 years at the University of Florida, because it wasn't just Jaden Baugh the whole way. The first play from scrimmage was a perfectly designed play with a little pop pass out to the tight end in the right flat. Lagway missed him. It was a 20-yard gain. It was one of those plays that would have shut the crowd down immediately, and Lagway missed him. I watched other plays where Lagway missed him. So I'm not picking on DJ Lagway. The kid's very talented, but he missed a lot of time with an injury. They did him no service to let him sit around for 9 months and get him play. This is a situation I'll get into later, but this is NIL stuff that is creeping in to decisions that are being made on these players. As far as the game continued down the road, there was a throw that Lagway made that was jaw-dropping. He had J. Michael Sturdivant going down the field, across the field, and he threw it like it was an out pad, and it was a 40-yard laser beam, put it on his hands, and it scored a touchdown. You saw the talent. Florida, talent for talent, and they were equal to Ole Miss. Okay, they just missed a little bit of the right secret sauce or some seasoning in that game. Even to the point going down the field to kick a game tying field goal, and a ball is tipped, intercepted, and so took the steam out of the Gators at that point. But a very well coached game, I thought. A few errors here and there, I get that. But Ole Miss with the home field, with the confidence, with that transfer portal quarterback who can just whiz it down the field as well, and the back Lacey, who was 220 yards, broke some long runs. Guy who came in the portal from last year. I think he was at Texas, and he came back to Ole Miss, or he was somewhere before that, but he had been recruited by Ole Miss heavily. He looks like a real star as well. So Ole Miss, tip of the cap to them. They did a good job. They rubbed it in at the end, though, with that touchdown, and then went on to play I Won't Back Down, which is the Florida Gator thing. We heard it. Well, we were out of the stadium because once they didn't make it on the fourth down play, we're like, let's go before it gets to be I've seen plenty of celebrations at other people's places, and we got outside the stadium. I'm like, I kind of cracked a little smile. I'm like, how Kiffin of them to do such a thing, but nonetheless, it was a very, very, very fun, interesting game. And if you want to see SEC football at its best, with all the pomp and circumstance that go along with all the traditions, that was the one to go to. We all walked away a little bit, half a grin on our face because of what we got to see and all the culture. And by the way, the people there are fantastic. They were so accommodating. Go here, go there. Oh, go to the Michelin star restaurant? They couldn't tell you enough about how great a town Oxford was. They're very proud of their town, and rightfully so.
So I got to ask, I'm sure you peruse the crowd. I'm sure you ask questions. Is Lane staying or is Lane going?
Well, everybody at Ole Miss asked me the same question. They're like, what do you think? That was the only question they had. Hey, you want a beer? Hey, what do you think about Lane Kiffin leaving? Like that. All right, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. I was gonna call this my semi-lock of the week, but I'm going to tell you right now, no Lane Kiffin. He is soaking, basking in this. I wish we took a picture of him, right? He's walking the team out down the champions walk, whatever they call it. He had on this, like slick looking leisure suit. He had a pair of $2,000 sunglasses on, and he was just throwing up deuces to everybody as he was walking by, and he didn't care. He had Theo Vaughn, the podcaster, going down the thing with him. He was soaking up every bit of that love and admiration that they had for him. And if it was a goodbye, boy, that was a bad way to go out. If you're going to go out, because he looked like a guy who was saying, I'm going to get paid and I'm going to stay here. I'm going to enjoy this grove and all these things that go along with Oxford. My kid's in school here. I just don't see him leaving for Florida at this point in time. I just don't. If he does, I mean, I don't know if it's a match made in heaven. Like, again, one guy asked me, "Come on, you want him, don't you?" I'm like, "No." And they're like, "What's wrong with you?" I said, I don't need that. I don't need that, but whatever going on, because the stuff that you see, Rich, you mentioned about going for the touchdown. I'm going to tell you the other side of it. Going forward on 4th and 1 twice, okay, throwing on 3rd, and we went to me and my buddy went to the bathroom, and it's like, we're going to miss the touchdown. I'm like, no, don't worry about it. He's going to do something stupid. He's going to throw the ball on 3rd down, and he did, because he's a style guy. He is that guy with that suit on. He wants to do it in a way and say, okay, see what you got here. See, I'm smarter than you. I'm this than you. He oozes it. He can't help himself. He flipped out on the sidelines on a penalty, on an extra point or a field goal where there was a hand to the face thing. I get you, but he had his 2 cents as that referee, and then he went back for more when the TV cameras came back on. Yeah. He couldn't help himself. He wanted to be the guy screaming and yelling.
Yeah, and he talked about it in the halftime interview too.
Absolutely. He couldn't stop himself.
Yeah.
And that's who he is. He's that guy. And at this point, Florida needs stability.
I wanted to say about last week's show, John, I think you had an excellent, because I think it was Spitz that's asked about the same question and the difference between Spurrier and the things he did versus the things that Kiffin does. And I understand why Spitz asked the question, because from somebody who's on the outside looking in, you're like, well, that looks very similar, same behavior. But when you gave the reference, and it seemed very personal reference that you gave for that right there, that just opened my eyes to a completely different thing. And I just want to tell you that anybody listening at home that loved football loved that answer that you gave about that for sure.
Well, I think sometimes it's about being genuine and being somebody who's not so genuine. You can pose or you can be real. Okay. Sometimes your vitriol and sometimes your reasoning behind stuff have meaning to them. And that there is a lot of that can happen. And I don't know if he really has, I think he's a carpetbagger, and I think that's fine. There's plenty of places for a guy like him. And, and I'm not going to try to because Lane Kiffin's done nothing wrong as a person. It's just a personality conflict that I don't see as it being something that fits the culture at Florida. But you see that there's been other guys that are. Lane Kiffin is the king of like if he was the guy right now, he's the guy who Bobby Petrino, Hugh Freeze, Gus Malzahn. All these guys they're just Lane Kiffin and just a different version of it. They come in with a blaze of glory. They change the offense. They kind of quarterback. Next thing you know, they're all of a sudden they're 7-5 and nobody likes them anymore. And they quit or they go someplace else. Remember, Lane Kiffin left a great job at Tennessee. He resigned from his basement on the internet and then ran out of Tennessee to go to USC because he couldn't wait to go because it was Hollywood. He wanted to go to Hollywood and he failed because there was no substance to it. He was an actor playing a coach at the time. And so that was a failure. Al Davis said he was nuts. He fired him. He said he was nuts. Saban took him under his wing and gave him some perspective. All everything for Nick Saban.
Probably the best thing he ever got.
Probably sure,
the best time he ever got.
Saban gave. There's something unbelievably, and I say this probably the best coaching job Nick Saban ever did was Lane Kiffin. He gave them the right amount of rope to not hang himself. He
Right.
put him out and said, I'll let you go. I'll let you go. And then he went, woo, 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 woo. He reel him back in and say, not without explanation, Lane, we need to run the ball out here. We need to do this because we're going to win this football game. That's the bottom line here. I'll go in the press conference and I'll call everybody out and say how crappy we played, but we're going to go win this football game. And I can go complain to the media about it, but we're not going to lose the game because you want to run a play that you designed on Tuesday. It's not going to happen that way. So I think that was a big deal. Maybe that's a little bit still rubbed off, but boy, you could see that look on his face. I was 3 feet from the guy, and I'm looking at him like, phew, there it is. That's the guy I know right there. And he comes to Florida, and I know Florida's booster base too. They are not about that. They're just a different brand of folks. Maybe sometimes they think a little too much of themselves. Everybody thinks that Florida has been winning the SECs and national championships since the turn of the century, not the 2000s, 1900s.
Right.
You know, I think that it hasn't been that way, but they expect it, and they expect their coach to be a certain way. And I'm not quite sure Kiffin's the match. Look at Mullen. Mullen is another one like that, right? Oh, he didn't try hard enough recruiting. Let's fire him. You were in the SEC championship the year before that. What is wrong with you? Why would you fire that guy? But you know who was saying it? The boosters.
So when you were just talking about the carpetbaggers, Freeze, Malzahn, all those guys right there, you put Lane Kiffin in there. Does Brian Kelly? You guys think that Brian Kelly fits in that category?
No, Brian Kelly's the guy at the end of the bar that you want to punch in the face.
Okay, well there it is then.
because he's got that. How
I know everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I know everything. And then you leave Notre Dame. I'm sure that he talked about being at Catholic school. He probably was never even Catholic. Whatever he did in Notre Dame, they got tired of his act, right? And then he goes to LSU, and I bring it up all the time. He goes to a basketball game and starts talking in a fake Cajun accent. Right. I mean, what is that all about? I mean, if you were trying to be funny, boy, that was the wrong thing to do.
Right.
And if you were trying to be sincere, that was insanity at his finest. Crazy. So nonetheless, Brian Kelly, he's a different bird. I don't know if he coaches ever again, because I look at Brian Kelly and I put him in the same category as Jimbo Fisher. Okay. They know exactly when to move, how to move, where to move to. Brian Kelly's going to end up on TV somewhere. Who knows? He'll be somewhere on TV, and his name is going to pop up for certain jobs, like the Oklahoma State job or something like that. Not a big name school, because that's not where he's going to end up again. But he'll end up somewhere like Oklahoma State or Arizona State or something along those lines, where they need a coach, and they have a decent track record, and he'll do a lot. He'll steal some recruits here and there, and he'll be successful. But I just don't think he's the guy for the top level SEC teams.
Speaking of top level SEC, we got a change at the top. Oklahoma,
Yeah,
who really, I watched the game. They didn't do a whole heck of a lot. Barely 200 yards of total offense, but they took advantage of Alabama mistakes. They took advantage of special teams. And in the end, they beat Alabama 23-21. And that just throws the SEC into a total tizzy. And, sitting right there with a shot, depending on how things shake out at the end, is Ole Miss. Ole Miss has got a shot to go to Atlanta. Of course, Georgia stands in the way, but Georgia's got some issues coming up, none the least of which is Georgia Tech, who survived Boston College over the weekend. We'll talk about that a little bit, but really, what a way. And then there's Oklahoma and Georgia. Guys, can we send some flowers to Texas? I hear people saying they've got a shot to make the playoff as a 3-loss team. Please tell me it isn't so.
No.
no.
They're
like, well, if they beat A&M, that gives them a huge win. I'm sorry, I still look at the Florida game where they got destroyed by a team who may win 4 games. May.
Right.
There was a guy I was watching ESPN earlier, and don't hold that against me, but nevertheless, they were breaking down each conference's playoff, and there's 2 teams that are sitting at the top that you guys are SEC guys, and Southern guys, and I get that, but there's 2 teams sitting at the top that are going to have a say. and one of them is the defending national champions.
Absolutely.
And there is nothing that they have done to make me think. And Cignetti what he has done at Indiana. You know, I have a personal friend that grew up in Sarasota that came to Michigan State. His name's Herb Haygood, played wide receiver, but was a wide receiver and kickoff return at Michigan State. And, you know, he worked for player personnel at Indiana when he first got out of the NFL and went there and introduced me to that program. And from what they were then to what they are now is just night and day. And you don't have Alabama, Georgia, everything's steady flow. It's just a steady flow. Indiana they're the laughing stock of the Big Ten. You know, everybody marked that on their on their schedule as a win against Indiana. They are undefeated, 11-0 in the country, and I don't think a lot of teams really want to play. That kid that they got a quarterback for them is legitimate. They are very good. They got lucky with that throw in the end zone that he tapped his toe in there. Nevertheless, though, I mean, they're a good team, and again, Ohio State they're gonna have something to say about who's there at the end.
Listen, as somebody who follows Ohio State, they've still got a Michigan problem, and that game's in a week and a half. And let me tell you,
it's not going to be a problem.
I hope not, but I didn't think last year's game wasn't going to be a problem either.
You're right. And I've Michigan said that barely for 4 years in a row. Yes.
Yeah, Michigan barely had 200 yards. They couldn't throw the ball for nothing.
They're terrible.
And they still walked out of Columbus with a win. Now they're going to be in Ann Arbor, and a playoff position is going to be at stake. If they beat Ohio State, even though they may end up with 3 losses if they lose in the Big Ten championship game, I think a win against Ohio State might just get Michigan. Again, that's one of those brands: Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State. I think they've got a legitimate shot to get in the playoff. And listen, 4 straight years.
4. And every year I'm telling this is our community right here. I'm a Michigan State guy. And you're born, if you're a Spartan, you're born to hate Michigan. That's just the way it is. You know, like Michigan, Ohio State hate each other. I hate Michigan. The fact of the matter is, Michigan struggled with Northwestern this last week.
Yes, they did.
And barely snuck out of there with the game. I watched Ohio State every time, and I said going into every game for the last 4 years, Michigan's about to get the doors blown off, and they've won every time. And I said, I'm going to sit here and say it again. They are about to get blasted again. And I hope that I'm right. But again, I've been wrong for 4 years in a row. So no telling.
Yeah.
So Rich, right here, this is your shot sheet right here, right? That you gave me to look over, right? Yeah. And when I read the college football, your shot sheet, it could be the what college football is all about right now. Just going down with the close games, upsets, teams that are falling in and out of the playoffs, with the exception, Matt, of Ohio State and Indiana, okay? Because they have been the steady rocks. They are the top 2 teams in the country. And I know Texas A&M is 3 and also undefeated in SEC school, but if South Carolina didn't decide to go to sleep in the second half, literally, okay, there was a chance for them to lose. They look vulnerable, Texas A&M. Mond is a good quarterback, but boy, he showed what he could be in the first half, and then with the second half, they just let him throw the football around. I don't understand what was going on there. But I really believe that these teams, and this is to your point about Texas, Rich, there's just going to be this constant, just the next 3 weeks or so is just going to be jumbled up. And there's going to be a real outcry to get rid of the conference championship games. Because in the SEC, let's play it out for you. A&M and who's in second place right now? Georgia. Okay? Georgia. And you got Ole Miss right behind them. If I'm Ole Miss, I don't want to play that game.
Right.
The loser's going to get a bad seed. They're going to go down. Ole Miss is going to go up. So what Alabama did a couple of years ago when they got to be the 4 because they didn't play in the game to have a loss.
Right.
So there's going to be some outcries. There's going to be some games that people are going to lose. But let's put it this way. The 3 lost teams, okay, you said about Texas, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to go eye test here. They are not a playoff team. They are
correct. I agree.
Okay. Eye test. So if they're the 5th or 6th potential SEC team in there, I don't want them.
Yeah.
Put somebody else in there. Somebody else who's got has 3 losses. Because their 3 losses aren't great losses. I get Ohio State, but that was the crappiest game I've seen all year. The build-up for the start of the season, and it was like watching a backyard football game with a bunch of kids. They didn't do anything. It was boring. You know what I mean? Losing to Florida at Florida. I get it at the Swamp. I'm all about the Swamp, but forget about it. Texas has looked bad. They limp past some teams to get to that 7 mark. So I'm doing the eye test there. They're not a playoff team.
No.
So let's get it right with the 12, and if there's 4 or 5 SEC teams, whatever it comes to, I grant you that. But I think it's going to get more jumbled up. I'm gonna go ahead of the game. It's not going to be, but watch out for Auburn against Alabama.
Yes,
it's at Auburn, and I'm telling you,
the last 2 years at Auburn, woohoo!
You are who you are. Game 1 to game 12, okay,
right.
Whatever it's going to be. Understand something. Alabama is still the team that lost to Florida State.
Yes.
Okay, and I grant you that they didn't play very well, whatever, but I look at Ty Simpson and I look at Kalen DeBoer, and I am not sold on that quarterback coach combination. Not a national championship situation. They play Eastern Illinois next week, and they go on to play Auburn. Watch out for that. But I don't know if Alabama, and every Alabama person in the world think, "Are you crazy?" Whatever it may be. But I'm going to tell you that I'm not sold on Alabama as a competitive team for a championship at this point.
Before we move, I just want to ask you this, just for clarification. When you said that you would feel like there's going to be a push to get rid of the conference game, when you have the top of when you look at the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, they're top heavy teams, but you have a lot of mid-level teams in there.
Correct.
Okay, so is Alabama going to vote to get rid of a conference championship? Probably. Georgia, probably. Ohio State, probably. Michigan would probably do that. But then you have the Penn States, Auburns, that this might be our only way in to the tournament. So maybe we should. So do you think that they would still vote as an entire conference to vote to get rid of it?
No, I think the biggest thing has always been money, as far as that's concerned, and they're money makers. That'll be the big thing they're going to say. Well, hey, we make a lot of money, and it's for the conference, and we're all about the conference. I think that they shouldn't get rid of them. Myself, what I should say is that there shouldn't be a penalty for losing the game.
Right.
If you're the 2 seed in the SEC and you lose against the top seed or whatever you lose, you should not be penalized for that game. Okay. Right. Because listen, they hang banners all over the place. Big 10 championship, Big 12 championship, SEC championship, Pac-10 championship. It means something. It's something that does mean something. Look, let's talk about high school football. We're talking about teams that we think they're going to go to the state semifinals. Man, a regional championship, a district championships, that's a big deal. I hope that these kids that are playing and they're saying, if they lose a game in round 3, it's a tough game. I know they're going to be tears in their eyes. It might be their last game ever, but you talk about that the rest of your life.
Right.
You get rings for that stuff in college. Let's not, I think the point I'm going to make too is let's not turn it into totally professional football. You don't get it. You do. AFC East champion, NFC West champion. They used to put flags up for that. They don't get rings for it. They're professionals. It's one goal, one championship. But still, at this level, and you're playing, because you're playing those teams. You're not playing 12 different teams from 12 different conferences. You're playing a 9-game conference schedule. It should mean something. And you're branding yourself out to the media. It should mean something. So they have to understand that. But I still think there's going to be we don't want to play. Nobody's going to tank, but by no means do they want to play an extra game and have them cost them a potential playoff game in their home. They don't want to do that. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I think it'll come up. I'm not sure what they'll do with it, but I think it's something to be considered down the road.
All right, guys, I'm going to bring something up that was going to be my what's bugging me, but I found something else a little different. But we're 2 weeks away from the end of the regular season. At the moment, Miami and Notre Dame have identical records.
Yeah.
And will probably finish with identical records. They're both, in all likelihood, going to be 10-2. Miami's a very long shot to get into the ACC championship game. Very long shot. They'd have they'd have to have 3 teams lose in front and then, win kind of a tiebreaker. But as of right now, there is clear separation between Notre Dame and Miami. As of the last, college football playoff show, Notre Dame was 9, Miami was 15.
Right.
Miami beat Notre Dame on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was week 1, but they beat them on the field. If I'm Miami and Notre Dame gets a playoff berth and Miami doesn't, I cancel the game at Notre Dame next year. Why play? Why play? Talk me off the ledge.
John, please take that because I'm with Spitz 100% on this. 100%.
Why play? Schedule a clean puff.
I totally agree. Okay. Now, the funny thing about college football is that for all the last, let's say 20 years since they started having the CFP championship games, it was 2 teams, 4 teams, but now it's 12 teams. They've all kept on saying we're taking the subjectiveness out of it. It's not a beauty contest anymore. It's all about this and it's analytics and all this different stuff. So we're gonna get the right teams in there. And then there's a on the field scenario where a team beat a team, and that team and their resume might be the same, or Miami's might be better for that matter, with this depending on how things go, and they don't get in. I think it is a ridiculous scenario to play out, but it's the absolute God's honest truth. You have every right to be furious over something like that. Okay?
I mean, why go to South Bend? You're going to be an underdog. Why don't you schedule? And I'm going to just pull a name. FAU? Why don't you just schedule FAU? Because obviously the number on the left doesn't matter. If you're both 10-2 and you beat them on the field, in my opinion, you have to be. There's no reason to play. And unfortunately, I think there'll be a ripple effect because I think, the SEC is known. The reason this week in the SEC is the way it is with Alabama playing Charlotte and, the Cream Puffs. It's because the other big teams play the Cream Puffs at the beginning of the year, and the SEC steps out and plays teams from other conferences.
Right.
I give them kudos for that, but you got to have your Cream Puff team. Why not have it the week before your biggest rivalry games? I certainly don't have a problem with that. There's other people out there who do. But when the matter has already been settled on the field, and if Notre Dame makes it and Miami doesn't, or even if they both make it and Notre Dame's ranked ahead of Miami, no need to play. No need.
The real thing is this. This is only going to happen with Notre Dame. Okay. So you're allowing here, and I'll say this right now. So Notre Dame made a television deal with NBC a long time ago.
Yep.
If they didn't make that deal with NBC and with the blessing of the NCAA or whatever else, their own brand, okay, whatever it may be, if they didn't do that, then Notre Dame would be in the ACC right now, all the way.
Right.
Okay.
Every other. Yep.
If you're the NCAA, you need to call Notre Dame and say, "Here's the deal. Keep your damn contract, but you're joining the damn ACC." Okay. And that's it. You can have your games on NBC to 8:00 on Saturday night, or whatever it may be. You're allowing this brand to, because they don't play enough games in comparison to Miami. They play Navy, they do whatever they try to schedule wherever they can.
Pitt.
But they don't play Michigan anymore. The things that they don't do, right?
Right.
So it can't be everybody plays by a set of rules except for Notre Dame.
Right.
It's BS. Okay.
But the problem,
so they need to be changed.
I agree with you, John, but I'm going to stop you because unfortunately the NCAA has no teeth.
None.
They don't. I listened to another sports talk show and they correctly identify them as event planners. That's all they do. They plan the NCAA tournament. Let
me give you one more example of this.
Okay.
At the end of the 23 season, a team was caught cheating, stealing signs. The reason that the NCAA did not punish them and take wins away was because they did not, and this is directly from the NCAA. We did not want to punish the athletes who are there now because they weren't there then. But let's go back to earlier this week. The NCAA punished a Division I Big Ten school and took wins away from them. Do you remember who that was?
Michigan State.
Correct. And you know what didn't come up? Not one thing was mentioned about the players that weren't there. The players that are on that roster now were not there then. You don't even follow your own rules, let alone anybody else's. So the NCAA, that's what they are, an event planner. That's what they are.
And so I think what's going to happen is we've all seen it, we've heard it, we haven't seen it in fruition yet. The 4 big conferences are going to say, bye-bye NCAA. We're doing our own thing. We don't need to worry about you. We'll make the rules. We'll figure out how to split the money up. They're the ones with the contracts with the networks as it is anyway. Right. And then what happens is when those schools all have and Notre Dame standing on the outside saying, well, we're a big, look at us over here. We're a brand. They say, go play Temple. Go play, go join the AAC or whatever the hell it is, okay. Go play there because you don't want to play us and you want different rules. You want your own network and everything. Go have your own network. See how the ratings are when you're pulling your schedule. You're going to pull is a Memphis, Tulane, or whatever it's going to be. Nobody's watching that. Right. And then USA says, we want to keep they're going to lose USC at some point in time. That's a big rival, right? Why? Because they're independent. USC's in the Big 12, Big 10. They've got to play those games. They got to get rid of somebody, right? So they're going to get pushed out. And the NCAA may have nothing to do with it, but the SEC might, and the ACC might, and the Big 10 might, and the Big 12 might. And if they get stuck on the outside looking in with their big fat schedule or their big pot of money that they got, there's going to be nothing there. Interesting real thing. I'm going to give you one more thing to kind of gnaw on, and you don't have to answer it, but why in the world would Marcus Freeman be a candidate to go to some of these jobs around the country?
He's not.
But why? But why would it come up? Is it because they know at some point in time, or maybe Marcus Freeman might know that Notre Dame is going to be an outlier, and maybe their schedule's not going to be something that he can win a championship. Maybe they're going to be a top 10 or top 14 team, and that's it because they don't get to play in these games. I don't know. There's something weird about why they would think he would want to leave there to go to a school that's, maybe LSU and Florida are equal to Notre Dame in some way or another, but not from a branding perspective. So I couldn't quite grasp it. I'm thinking, is there something more to it? Is this a Notre Dame thing where they know that at some point in time they got to get right, and if they don't, they're going to be outliers? I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Anyway, I had to get that off my chest. That's been bothering me because it's about to become reality, guys. Unless Mario Cristobal pulls another Mario Cristobal, and somehow Miami loses one of their last 2 games. Both teams are going to be 10-2, and right now Miami's 5th in the ACC because there's 4 other teams with 1 loss. And the eye test tells you that they're better than all the other ones, but unfortunately they lost at SMU in overtime, and they dropped that game to Louisville at home, which looks worse and worse as Louisville continues to lose games. They lost last week to Clemson. All right, real quick, wrap up college football. There's not many big games this week. It's such a light schedule. That 23rd ranked Tennessee and Florida is the ABC 7:30 game. 7:30
game again. Yeah, we love 7:30 games.
Yeah, you gotta love 7:30 games on ABC
on Friday night.
Yeah, exactly. Miami's at Virginia Tech. They should have no problem with that. USF blew an opportunity to be that group of 5 team. I told you, John, that Navy game was a scary game. It's my own fault. That should have been my lock of the week. Navy getting a bushel basket of points in that game. You don't see that offense that often, and USF has struggled with them home and away. And certainly, they had their opportunities, but unfortunately, they're going to probably end up in Boca Raton again.
Yeah, that's where they're headed. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Arkansas and Texas, again, there's just USC and Oregon. That's an interesting game. USC needs this game to have a chance to get into the playoff. They have to get this game. And then they're somehow going to have to beat UCLA, who's really not that good an outfit, but they've managed to mess up USC several times over the last rivalry games. Just have a mind of their own.
They are great. Rivalry games are fantastic. And Florida plays Florida State, all stuff. Love going to the game when it's a home game, but there's times you're like, I'm just going to stay home and watch all these games because one of them is going to be a mess up somewhere. I remember years gone back when where they had the miracle win Auburn with the the field goal return.
Kick six.
Kick
Yes.
six.
2013.
I will tell you this, and Rich, you're a radio guy by trade, obviously, and I love radio calls. I on Saturday, on Sunday, on the way home from games, I will leave and listen to the 1 o'clock games on the radio on Sirius XM. It's a lot of fun to listen to those games because you get so much insight into the teams. But that might be the greatest call in college football history, or one of the top 5 for sure. Because the way it happened and the way it was calm and everything, and he's gone, and we were in the car driving home from the Florida State game. We had watched some of the game at dinner, and then we got in there, and I was so happy that I heard it, not saw it. It was such a different vibe. You felt every ounce of the Auburn love that guy had, and he was about in tears, and I just loved it, and that's rivalry week. It's awesome. It's great.
Sad that he's no longer with us.
I know, very sad. Very sad.
A few years ago. So anyway, so the college season is again, this is kind of a nondescript week. We'll obviously dive into all of the rivalries coming up, and we'll bring up the fact that Matt Geller says no problem, Ohio State's going to destroy Michigan.
I want you guys to come back to that next week when I'm not on here. I want you to, if I was wrong, I want you to call me on it. But I'm telling you, I'm stating it. I'm putting it on my chest. Ohio State has no problem with them this week or next week.
All right. The 941 Sports Zone, presented by the good folks at Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. 941-251-4257 is the number. 941-251-4257. I'm Spitz. That's John Hottie, Toddy Masoni, and in the middle is Matt Geller from the Florida Sports Scene, who's kind enough to be our first repeat guest here on the 941 Sports Zone for this season. We're going to turn our attention now to the NFL. Bucks and Bills played one heck of a game in Orchard Park. A pair of 6-3 teams got together. Only problem is the Bucks defense never got off the bus. Josh Allen, who at the beginning of the game tried to hand the game to the Buccaneers with a two-handed throw and interception. As it turned out to be a heck of a play, because if he takes the safety and they free kick and the Bucks come down and score, well, it's 9-0 instead of 3-0. So even though it looks like the dumbest play in the world, as it turned out, it worked out well for Buffalo. But the Bucks had no answers at all. There are some things that went on in this game that just, starting with that, 1st and goal at the 5, the Bills last week against Miami were gashed on the edges. So what do the Bucks do? Run up the middle. First 2 plays.
Right.
Don't get anything. Baker incomplete, field goal instead of a touchdown. Chasing points again. That was my big thing last week. That what was bugging me. It's still bugging me. The Bucks continue to chase points before the 4th quarter. They start doing the math game. Here's the problem where the math's not mathing. The Bucks are 1 for 7 on 2-point conversions this year. 1 for 7. So they were 1 for 5 going into the game, 20%. Right. I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. And it just changes the whole dynamic of the game. And then the inexplicable to me, the Bucks have not stopped the Bills in the second half once at all. 4th and 2 from the 39 with 7.5 minutes to go. You might get the ball back one more time, and the Bucks punt. So Todd Bowles had an incredibly all over the road game. He's Riverboat Gambler going for 2. He's punting on 4th and 2, down 5. And basically lets the Bills put the game away. Listen, I'm a defender of Todd Bowles. The team is respectable. We could go back in history in this 50th year anniversary. 40 of those years have been horrific. Okay, let's be real. 35 to 40 of those years. So they are competitive, but games like this where you got it right there. And things like that happen. It just, as a fan, it drives you nuts.
Well, I've grown a lot of respect for Tampa since I've been down here, they came. Detroit only lost 2 games last season, and one of them was the Tampa. Came to Detroit and beat them.
Yep.
So that when I have a friend that has season tickets up in Tampa for the Bucks, and this year, and he was like, "Well, what do you think about this game?" And I said, "Man, if you come to Detroit and win last year, I'm assuming that they win." And they came, again, I don't know how the schedule worked out when they went back to back to Detroit like that. I don't know how that played out, but Detroit didn't have any problem with Tampa this year. They
Right.
didn't seem like it didn't seem like that was the same Tampa team, and obviously they've got injuries with Godwin and whatever's going on with
And
Evans.
Baker's been banged up.
He has. They have. They have. I honestly believe if you get a whole healthy Tampa team, that they can make a serious run in the East. And I seen it last night. Who I think is the best cream of the crop, the defending champions. They did what they did last night against my Lions. They did, and I really don't see anybody in the NFC that can dethrone the Philadelphia Eagles. I haven't seen it, but Tampa.
But Detroit had Matt, I'm going to stop
They
you.
did.
Detroit had a shot in that game.
They did.
0 for 5 on 4th down. At
Fourth
some
down.
point, Dan Campbell, stop banging your head up against the wall and kick a field goal.
I agree. And you know what? That offensive coordinator is going to be looking for a new job at the end of the season. I know it, and everybody else knows it. They got jobbed a little bit at the end with that pass interference call. But,
Yes.
But again, what it comes down to is when you're 0 for 5 on 4th downs, you cannot hang it on a pass interference in the 4th quarter.
Correct.
You just
Correct.
can't. So, I don't know. But getting back to Tampa, I honestly thought, as much as I love the Detroit Lions, I thought that Tampa was the team. If there was a team in the NFC that could dethrone them, it was the Tampa Bay Bucks. And I'm not sure that there's anybody left. See, I think Seattle took it on the chin yesterday. There's just
let's go to that game.
Yes.
Sam Darnold throws 4 picks, and they're driving to win the game.
yeah,
So, if he plays even halfway decent, they beat the Rams.
yes,
Again, these games come down to play here and a play there, or in this case, 4 plays there, 4 interceptions. But nonetheless, that's how close all these teams are. Philly, you listen, defensively, they went and got the kid from Miami. You talk about fitting like a glove in a defense. Holy crap. He's been unbelievable for them. But if you're a Philly fan, you're wondering what in the world's going on with his offense. Just another very subpar performance. So they've scored 26 points in the last 2 games and somehow won them both because their defense is that good. You can't win a Super Bowl like that. I'm sorry.
Well, no one can overestimate or underestimate the fact that when you have a star in your locker room that is unhappy and he's letting it be known he's unhappy.
Yes.
When you're hungry, it's different. When you're full and they're champions, and now this guy's causing problems, and I'm not saying it's his fault or this fault, but he has let it be known that I'm not happy with the way things are going. That's going to trickle over to the rest of the team. That everybody that knows football knows that this is going to affect the locker room. So I thought Philly was vulnerable. I thought the Detroit Lions had a chance to do it, but they're not the team to do it. Maybe it is the Rams. Maybe it is. I don't know. But the Bucks, I thought they had a good shot at it, and injuries, I think, and like you said, Baker's banged up. I don't know if this is their year either. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see how the NFC shakes out.
I'll say this: the NFL is concerned, guys. It looks like a mess when you see this, how things are going, how the Chargers can look so good one week and so bad the next week.
And horrible.
I as you guys are talking, I'm thinking to myself, where's the NFL headed? What's the trend towards, being a championship team or whatever it may be? I am amazed right now at New England.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at Denver. Okay. I'm amazed at the Colts in so many ways. All right.
Yeah.
I'm way amazed by the Bears. Okay. Because I'm like, how is that happening? But so as I'm saying this, about these teams, and then there's some other teams that are good. I think the Rams are a super, super solid football team. man, what you've got in a lot of cases with these teams is it goes back to the same thing I said before, coach and quarterback.
Yep.
You got Vrabel, and he's taken Drake May and giving him ways to win. I love Dan Campbell, but Rich is right about last night's decision-making. It was a little bit odd to do certain things. Take the points.
Yeah.
Every time you don't take the points, you lose by 3 or you lose by 2 or 1 or whatever it may be. Okay. And you watch these teams and they just get it. They get a field goal to start. It gets momentum, and then it's a touchdown. It's a defensive play. It's a quarterback not making bad decisions or making throws or taking a sack instead of throwing the ball and throwing an interception. There's so much to it. And I think that when the coach and the quarterback are on the same page, you get what you got with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. They may not have been drinking buddies, but they sure the hell had the same goal, and that was to win football games. And it wasn't about style. It wasn't about bravado. It wasn't about anything. There was a Jerry Glanville, the old coach from years gone by, said, from 1 to 32, the talent is not far apart.
Right.
Okay. It's not. It's what you do after that, how you play the game with these guys. And what these coaches are figuring out, again, in Denver, you got Sean Payton. You think he's phenomenal coach. How he's handled Bo Nix in this situation. Bo Nix is not great. Bo Nix is still Bo Nix. He's the same guy who was at Oregon and Auburn, making crazy throws and whatever it may be. Keeping it steady, good defense. That just keeps churning through games. You're gonna have bad games and good games and whatever. That's where they're 7-3, 9-2, 8-3. They're getting it. I'm gonna tell you that Detroit, Ben Johnson going to Chicago, might have been the worst thing that happened to Detroit because
no doubt.
Not that Dan Campbell's not a good coach, but what are they struggling with right now?
Offense. They're terrible. They're awful.
Same guys can't get the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Can't do it. What's going on with that?
Right.
So I think that's where it's headed, which makes Philly the outlier because Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts might be the 18th best quarterback in the league. I don't know. He's not in the top 10 as far as production is concerned. He knows how to win, though.
Right.
He does what he has to do. He's he's very stoic. He doesn't really get up or down about a lot of things. So there's a situation that maybe they're an outlier, but the rest of them, good coaching, good quarterback. And the other teams that are sort of up and down and mishmash, like Rich is talking about the Bucs, it's a little bit of the coaching and the quarterback. Baker can be a little out there, and Todd's not really an offensive guy. So, we see how it goes. The NFL wants this. They love the fact that
absolutely. It's the greatest reality show on TV.
It's everything about it. And when Chase spits in Ramsey's face yesterday, for as much as they're making a big deal, they love to have that. That's a big deal for them. They don't want to. They don't want to show it. They don't want. But that just adds to all the drama of the next time and everything else that goes into it. So they love that kind of stuff. And everybody still has a chance, except for 5 teams. When you're 14 weeks into the season, they're happy as hell.
Well, how would you like to be in the fan base of the Tennessee Titans to watch your owner run out the head coach out of Tennessee? You have the number 1 overall pick that gets a quarterback, and this guy leaves and goes and has his team rolling. How does the season ticket the buyers of the season tickets in Tennessee, like, wait a minute now, we could have had this guy here. We
did have this guy here.
You had him there. Yeah.
Right. And that's when you like the prototypical teams that have been perennial cellar dwellers, let's just say, are usually the ownership is usually very stupid. They do stupid stuff. They want to be overly involved in a situation. They're all big time money makers, and they're CEOs of company, and most CEOs of companies are hands off. They let their people do the job. Except the football team, because it's a reality show. Like you said, I want to be in the middle of it. Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, super talented football team. He gets rid of their best defensive player, and they're all cooing over the fact that he got Quinnen Williams. I can tell you Quinnen Williams is not Micah Parsons.
He's not.
And you gave that pick to the Jets. The Jets are the winner on that situation. They got a first round draft pick for next year. They're going to remodel the whole team. There's something to that situation, but coach and quarterback on the same page, consistency of the way they play, how they play the games. They're always in the games. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And look, Andy Reid and everybody. The Chiefs are what, 5-5 right now?
Yeah, they're in trouble.
Okay, they're in trouble. But everybody says it. Hey, if the Chiefs makes the playoff, are they the favorites? Yep.
Yeah, you don't want to play them.
They're going to be the guys that they're going to.
Whoever's the 2 seed is hoping to God they're not the 7. I can tell you that right now. They're hoping to God.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
By the way, speaking of coach and quarterback, and we'll go back to the Lions. Ben Johnson, the job that he's done with Caleb Williams this year.
Yeah.
Nothing short. They're in first place. The Bears. And listen, anybody that's watched the Bears know they're a decent football team. They're not a great football team, but he's willing them to wins. They won again yesterday at the gun. They fell behind.
Fitz, how many games have the Bears lost this year? You know?
What's that?
You know how many they've lost this year?
Yeah, they're 7-3.
They lost one of them, and the Detroit Lions blew them off the field.
Yeah, blew them off the field. Yeah.
And that's why I said I'm not a believer in the Bears. Not right now. Not this season. I think they're coming, but they're at the end of this year. I have no doubt that they're, even though they're in first place right now, I don't think that they're a legitimate contender this season. But that connection with Ben Johnson, I knew when he left. I mean, I'm a fan of Aaron Glenn's too. I am, and I think he has a way of getting things turned around. But
he's starting to.
Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams together going forward in the future. Jared Goff's older. You know, they have no viable backup in Detroit. Like you've got all these stars and you have nobody coming. You know, what's the kid out of Tennessee, Hooker? You know, he's been a complete just a nothing. You know, so I don't know.
By the way, Chicago hosting Pittsburgh Sunday, and of course the Steelers won yesterday, but looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to miss a significant amount of time. He has a broken left wrist. That's at least the word. It hasn't been officially said by the Steelers, but he's probably going to miss. Well, I would think I'd be shocked if he's playing Sunday. You know, so that here's the Bears again, a chance to win a game against Mason Rudolph. You know, Bill Parcells said it way back when. You are what your record says you are.
Yes.
And believe it or not, you know, the Bears could be 8-3 going into Thanksgiving. Do they not play? Who plays Detroit on Thanksgiving? Is it Green Bay or Chicago?
I don't. I have not looked at
either way.
Right, yeah.
Either way, though, you know, there's Chicago sitting there in first place. Say what you want about them, but they're sitting at
absolutely
7-3. Real quick before we move on, Shedeur Sanders finally got in a game. Dillon Gabriel got knocked senseless by the Baltimore defense. Certainly struggled, 4 of 16. Listen, he's not getting any reps. He got thrown to the wolves. Anybody who's making a statement now,
a case against them,
doesn't understand football, really.
Yes.
I mean, what is this kid supposed to do? I mean, and their offensive line is brutal. He was running for his life. He got sacked twice, threw a pick. You know, but if Gabriel's hurt, you're going to see a lot of Shedeur Sanders down the stretch. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe they can figure out what they've got, and you know they're going to have one of the top picks. Plus, they also, if I'm not mistaken, they own Jacksonville's pick, which of course is getting worse every week as the Jags continue to play better.
Yeah.
Go figure them out. They blow that lead against Houston last week, and then they just blow the doors off the Chargers yesterday.
Right.
It's just unreal. Some of the big games next week. The Thursday night game is Buffalo at Houston. You know, the Bills. Listen, they are what their record says. They're 7-3 too. They don't fix that defense. They're a first round exit.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you that right now.
No doubt.
The Bucs ran for over 200 yards with their third string running back.
The AFC's loaded too.
That.
They are loaded.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
The NFC is not. You know, they've been talking about the NFC's coming, and you know the champions out of there. But it's like the Big Ten. They're heavy on the top, and then everybody else is awful. And, and the NFC's like that, but the AFC is not. You have really, I counted 7 really quality teams in the AFC that have I think, in my opinion, have a shot. You know, they do.
And one of them might not make the playoffs.
KC, correct.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. I totally agree.
The Thursday night game we talked about is Buffalo Houston. The Sunday night game is the Bucs and Rams. everybody talked about it. Bucks went into the bye. They had those 3 tough games. They're currently 0-2, and they got to find some way to beat the Rams, or they're going to be 6-5. They could actually be knocked out of first place next week because Carolina is only a half game back, and the Monday night game is Carolina at San Francisco. Now, the 49ers looked a lot better with Brock Purdy at quarterback, but nonetheless, just when you think Carolina's dead, they come out with a great game, and then just when you think they're a playoff contender, they play a game like they did a couple weeks ago against the Saints.
Right. So, you're 100% right because they don't know how to win yet. That's the problem.
No.
They're figuring they're just inconsistent. Could they be good or could they good or could they be better next year? Yes, I think we're looking at a team that's going to be competitive next year for sure.
Yes, I agree. All right. Time now for locks of the week, and again, somebody stole the key. Both of us losing our locks last week, so we're both 5-3 on the season, which is not bad. Even after you pay the vig, you're still a little bit ahead. I haven't really perused the lines very much. I'm gonna kind of go Homer here. I think Florida State's kind of figured things out a little bit.
Okay.
They're not. Listen. Can Mike Norvell get fired at the end of the year? Sure he can. But they've righted the ship a little bit. That's a nice win over. Listen, Virginia Tech's no great shakes. By the way, it looks like James Franklin is going to be their head coach. The word is coming down the pike.
I like the move for both parties.
Yes,
I think it's a good move. Yeah,
I think so too. So, and then hopefully the dominoes will start falling because we have how many jobs open right now?
A lot.
Without tons. And most of them are in the SEC.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say Florida State gets bowl eligible at NC State. NC State was a complete no-show against Miami on Saturday night. Where's that been all year, Canes? They were up like 34-0 in that game. Finally, they played a game representative of what Miami's all about. But I'm gonna take Florida State on the road and lay the 4.5 against NC State. Homer pick.
Matt, what you got?
Well, I don't know about this week, but I'm going to give you my lead pipe lock, and I want you guys to just lock this in. Okay. Ohio State bludgeons Michigan, and that's the end.
You are killing me. Killing me. I hope so. I've been looking forward to a 1-2 Ohio State Indiana.
I really want that
game. I would love. I would actually drive to Indianapolis.
The coronation of Cignetti as a legitimate contender in college football is, and I'm telling you, I'm not I'm a Big Ten guy, but I don't have any allegiance to Cignetti or Indiana. But I'm telling you, this guy came up the right way all the way through, and he has that team. They believe that they can beat anybody in the country, and that is so impressive to me.
And now I saw that against Oregon, Matt. Oh, yeah. Against Oregon, at a very tough place to play, long distance. Every reason to say what a great effort you guys lost. They went out there and took that game. They smacked a tough Oregon team right across the mouth. And said, no, get out of our way. And Oregon had no answer for them. That's when I changed my whole opinion on Indiana and Cignetti. They're not a flash in the pan. Right?
They're not. They are not.
They are a legitimate contender, and that doesn't bode well for the Wisconsins and the Penn States and all those other things.
Michigan State,
yes,
no doubt about it.
We're floundering through the season, yes, but it really does set up. If you love college football, Ohio State versus Indiana, the whole world will be watching that game. Like this, this is back to Alabama Auburn or Georgia Alabama. It's got that feel to it. It does.
It's a really big game. I totally believe it, and everybody's waiting for it too. That would be it. It's good. You see those two teams at the top. You'd love to see that before everything gets started with the playoffs.
Yes.
John,
for me, it's just you guys just remember my.
Don't worry.
Because
if they lose, I'm coming after you.
Please do.
Because you're the jinx.
All right, so I'm keeping it local. I'm keeping it 9-4-1. I'm predicting that Venice, Cardinal Mooney, Booker, Palmetto, and Port Charlotte are all going to win this week.
Wow.
We're going to have okay. That's the 4th 1 seeds in Port Charlotte. There, I think they're all going to win. We're going to move forward, and that doesn't mean I'm not thinking that Manatee's not going to win as well, because I think they will. But I'm going to stick with the 5. My number 5. That my prediction that the 5 are going to go on to the regional finals. Riverview, I would say them as well too, but let's keep it with the 5 for right now.
All right. I like that, actually. I really like that. All right, final segment. What's bugging me? I want to go last, please.
Okay.
All
Matt,
right,
why don't you go first then?
I unfortunately I shot my shot. That whole thing with the NCAA. I apologize that I gave it away early, but just
That's fine.
there's nothing that drives me crazy than every single person in the United States heard what the NCAA said. They said that we are not going to punish the kids there, and then they turn around and punish the kids at Michigan State. Obviously, I'm a homer. I'm a Michigan State guy, but that is just garbage to me. The whole NCAA could just go away. Like and I know what it is. The Michigan people got their propaganda machine is strong. You know, I have no love for the University of Michigan. Please, what I understand is it's all in good. You know, it's in sport. I don't hate them. But I really don't like the team, and I don't like the way that they can buy their way out of certain situations, and that's what they did to hold on to that national championship. And Michigan State, you know, bad pick with Mel Tucker. They followed up with another bad pick with John Smith, and Michigan State's in a bad spot right now. But that whole NCAA thing, I hope that they disband them immediately at the end of the season, which I'm starting a petition. I hope you guys will sign it. And that's what's bothering me.
All right.
So I usually know what's bugging me because it's something that I yelled at the TV about, you know, on Saturday or Friday night. I'm like, what am I? And it just makes me furious. But the one thing that got me kind of a little upset, I don't want to really pile on, but I'll just mention game day without Lee Corso and that ending to the, you know, with the mascot gear or whatever, it's gone. Now they're replacing it with Pat McAfee jumping up on a chair and taking his shirt off and acting sort of foolish in some ways. I get he's a podcaster. I get all that different stuff, but it's not enough to bug me. I don't want to be picking on the media all the time. It's a show. They're appealing to people younger and different stuff. So yes. I get all that. So that being the case, but what's really bugging me is and it's a little bit personal with Florida, but it's how you have all these openings for all these coaches, and there aren't enough coaches to fill the spots.
Yeah.
There really isn't. So what happened? Where in the world are the coaches being groomed to come up and be the next guy? I don't know any next guy. Right. I don't want to have to steal Lane Kiffin, all his, you know, shenanigans and everything else. And that's my hope for the next 5 years, that guy's going to somehow make it happen for me. There's no next guy. There's no next guy making a move from the lower. There's none of them. They don't exist. They never talk about them. It's stealing the lower level SEC guy. Eli Drinkwitz, that's who I'm hearing now. That doesn't make me get chills. Yeah. I don't feel great about it. There's no next guy. Where are all the coaches is what I want to know. Where'd they all go off to? What are they doing? Because they don't exist. I say it all the time. There's only 3 active coaches in the NCAA with national championships.
Yeah,
that's it. It's Kirby. It's Ryan Day, and I always forget that there's always a third one. I keep on forgetting. That's how sad it is that I'm forgetting. Dabo. It's Dabo. Yeah. Yep. Okay, that's it. And so if you're looking at where you're gonna get your next coach, if you're anybody, LSU, whoever, Florida, whatever else, do you go try to steal Dabo from Clemson? I think that's a move you have to think about. He's had a crappy year, and he said some things that made it sound like he was ready to go anyway. Mm-hmm. But who's the next guy? It bothers me that there isn't a list that we can say this is the next guy.
But do you want to a refurbished coach like Dabo Swinney, or you said it over the course of this whole conversation, whatever the coaches, the different coaches, Brian Kelly, all they do is move them around. But Kirk Cignetti comes in, and you're like, that's who I would want. Let's go find the guy that, you know, that they haven't tried and failed. Maybe let's just give a try to somebody who, you know, a coordinator that we don't know yet.
Right. So the conversation has none of that, and none of that is the conversation. It's all about 2 guys. And then when the 2 start falling, who else is going to start falling? And you're just taking guys and shuffling around. It's sad that there's no lineage. It's sad that there's no guy who was a Florida alum that is made his way. We hear Jed
Right.
Fish at Washington, who's a guy who was a GA under Steve Spurrier. I get all that. Is he the guy? Maybe. I don't know, but you're still stealing a guy. Where are all the great new coaches coming from to fill these voids? They don't exist. And as a guy who has no coach right now, it's very frustrating to think that if you don't go and try to get the guy there's no lock. I understand that, but the guy they're going after is not even close to being a lock. And there's no, what are the options? What are the options? It's very frustrating.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to get real serious here.
All right.
What's bugging me has to do with where I live.
Oh,
I live in New England.
Lock the doors.
August, Massachusetts. And it's not because the wind chill was 18 degrees today. That did bug me, no question about it, because my jacket was in the car. But what's really bugging me is McDonald's.
Okay.
McDonald's. If you don't know, the McRib is back.
I didn't know.
The McRib came back last Tuesday. Except it didn't come here.
Oh.
There's no McRib in New England. If I want to get a McRib, I got to drive to New York 3+ hours away.
For a McRib.
And I love the McRib. And I know it's garbage. And I know it's, what they used to say about the McNuggets where they put a whole bunch of chicken parts and pizza fused, they used to say.
Fused.
Yeah. No, can't get a McRib. This is a very, very sad day. I heard my boss actually came out and goes, the McRib is back. And I'm going, okay, I ordered McDonald's last week for my son. I didn't see any McRib. So I went up to the app and nope, it's not in the app. So then I started doing AI, started doing Googling. And sure enough, they put up a map of where you can get the McRib. And there's only one area of the country that's grayed out. And that's New England, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine.
Do they have any other special
Gray, zero, no chance, zero.
Is it the way they market it or so?
Yeah, apparently this is only available in certain markets. I guess it didn't do too well last year. You know what a McRib cost up here last year? It's like $8 for a tiny sandwich. $8. And now I can't even get my tiny sandwich. So sometime in the next month, I've got to make a trip somewhere where I can get a McRib.
What about DoorDash?
No.
3 hours.
Yeah. Can you DoorDash from New York for me, please? Sure. Yeah. Thanks.
The rest of my life, whenever I hear the McRib, I'm going to think about you in this conversation for sure.
McRib. I love the McRib. When it came back a couple of years ago, I nearly cried as I had my 7th, 8th, 9th ones of the season. It's not even a month that they're here.
Yeah.
And I will say this too. I worked at McDonald's as a kid, and the McRib was a regular thing we had, and it was a very, very popular sandwich. I
don't understand the regionality. Only have it for a month. It's really weird, but yeah, that's bugging me big time. I can't get a McRib. I am stuck up here in hell. Patriots fans all over the place.
Right.
9-2. We're going to the Super Bowl again. And I can't get a McRib.
17-degree wind chill and no McRib to make it all go away.
Miserable. And I got to go out in the next few minutes. I can't wait. All right, guys. That'll do it for this edition of the 941 Sports Zone, this McRibless edition. Brought to you, as always, by the folks at Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. Locally owned, nationally backed, delivering exceptional roofing for homes and businesses throughout the Gulf Coast. Again, give them a call, 941-251-4257. Big thanks again to Matt Geller for joining us again.
Thanks, guys.
Florida sports scene, Matt. We certainly do appreciate it. We appreciate all the knowledge you bring to us. And we'll definitely catch up with you down the road yet again.
It is always I feel home when I'm here. I love this. I love the back and forth, and you guys teach me so much. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, the thing about it, Matt, is that you, especially with the local scene, we can see that you have a genuine a love affair right now happening with the
I honestly do.
situation. And
Yeah.
everybody that I talk to that's met you understands that as well. So take the compliment.
I talk to the moms and the parents. I'm not just going to say the moms and the parents, and Roman Mock's mom and I had a conversation today. I just the fact that they embrace me like they have is in this area, and it isn't just Venice, but Venice has done. But it's Port Charlotte, it's Manatee, it's Sarasota, it's Riverview, it's the whole thing. So I love this. I love what I'm doing, but I also want to say, man, when I'm here, I feel like I'm at home. So thank you, Spitz. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No
Appreciate that,
Mr. Hot Toddy. We'll see what
next week
says next week. It's rivalry week. I'm sure it's going to have something to do with hating the Seminoles. I sure hope we get that win this week.
We played Tennessee this week, and that's we go back to back, and that's an angry rivalry. People at Ole Miss thought we were like, this must be a big. I'm like, no, you don't know when you have that. When you have the angry rivalry, that's no fun. That's name calling time. So we don't like that too much.
Yeah, I want to get that win against NC State. I don't want to have to go to Gainesville to try to become bowl eligible.
No, that's not no.
Yeah,
I don't blame you.
Yeah. All right, guys, appreciate it. Thanks again. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back with another edition of the 941 Sports Zone next week. We usually do it on Mondays live, and then you can find it everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, X, I should say, the artist formerly known as Twitter. Instagram, YouTube. That's probably the best place to find it is YouTube.
Love the YouTube.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys, take it easy, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.